anybody, I said, you're going to have to just drop somebody out of heaven before I ever even think about getting here. And so here I am sitting next to this hunk. Oh my goodness, he was so pretty. And I didn't even notice. But he had like red hair, and I've always loved red hair. But I didn't even think about that stuff. All I could think about was the first thing that and see, he didn't trust women. And so he said, well, when I graduate, I'm going to Madrid, and I'm going to go study with Francis Schaeffer in Sweden. And I said, I'm going to be a single missionary. And so we both let our guard down, and we thought, okay, we can be friends. This is good. I don't have to worry, he's not going to hit on me, and she's not going to hit on me. And so, but honestly, when I look back at how good looking it was, I never even thought about him as a boyfriend. He just gained my respect because he was like Caleb. He had a different heart. He loved Yahweh with all of his heart and all of his soul and held back nothing. And that's how I looked. But I just had never met a boy like that. So we just became friends. And I think what I really felt for him was that 644 people took their shoes off to go into the basketball bar. And my husband said, here he is with his big old cowboy boots. And he said, I ain't taking my shoes off to go worship some pagan god. I said, you're right. Why are we taking our shoes off? And so we did. There were three of us, Annie and I and my roommate. She thought, yeah, why not? And so, everybody else went in. And so to make a long story short, we were friends with everywhere in Israel. He kind of pulled me up the hill in Jerusalem because this was like a year and a half after my back surgery. So I had all these people praying for me because I said, I know Yahweh wants me to go on this trip. And I wasn't up to it, but when I was in Israel, I felt great. I felt so good. And, he still had to help me up the hill sometimes. But even then, it was just a friend. I just would think whoever gets him is going to be so lucky. He's such a nice guy, And so then we're coming back across the Mediterranean, and Eddie and I are up on the deck. We're the only ones up there, the moon, the stars, the Mediterranean. And Eddie is telling me about how he and his brothers raised piglets in their bathtub. and I just thought it was so cute, And when his brother heard that story, he said, my brother is the only boy in the entire earth that would ever tell a girl about piglets on the Mediterranean with the moon. So when we got back to Athens, he had this little pad that he always took with him, and my friend and I were eating at the restaurant, and he threw it down on the table, and he said, write down your address. And so I gave him my college address. And he looked at it, he threw it down again, and he said, write down your mother's address. Just in case, because he was coming back to Texas, because he had to work and pay for his trip. And, and I was able to pay for mine ahead of time. And so I was going to graduate because I had gone to school over summer and everything, so I could graduate early, get out of high school early, so I graduated a year early from high school. And so anyhow, here we are. I said, I thought he'd write me at some point, And so I just kept praying, Father, be with Eddie, because we were friends, and I said, I didn't even think about him not writing me or any of that, but it was like the Lord just kept getting me to pray for him. And ladies, I started praying for Eddie before I knew I loved him, before I had any kind of romantic attachment. And if I could tell wives one thing that would change your life, is to never stop praying for your husband. Our husbands have such a task. They go out into a world that we don't even begin to understand. Even if we work, a lot of times, we don't understand what it's like in that dog-eat-dog world, and the responsibility that a man of God has on his shoulders, because he knows he's going to stand before a holy Yahweh and give an account. And what he needs is someone who will lift him up, especially in prayer, So make it a habit to pray, and pray for your husband, because when you pray for someone, you really learn to love them more and more. And so, long story short, I waited a couple of months, and he wrote me a letter and told me all these wonderful things about, all these things that Yahweh was telling him. And then the second letter, so then I wrote it back and invited him to my graduation. And I put a fleece out. I said, Father, my friend had told me, if Ed Garrison were to walk in that door today, you'd marry him. I went back to the prayer room and I said, Father, did you hear what Billy said? Isn't that the craziest thing you ever heard? I actually said those words to Father, but it was like I didn't get it, because the Spirit was moving. The Spirit was moving us along, and it was Him doing it. And so I put this fleece out, and I said, Father, if he's the right one, then let him come fellowship week. And so he wrote me a letter, and the first page said, I'm coming fellowship week. And before I tell you what the second page says, my best friend Millie was getting married. She was about this high, And so there was a girl on the top floor of the door that had a beautiful wedding gown for sale, and for $100, and it was like a $500 dress. And so Millie tried it on. Of course, it was like all over the floor. And so somebody said, well, why don't you try it on? And so I tried it on. It was perfect. A southern belle. It was just gorgeous. And so I thought, well, this is a good deal. Even if I don't ever get married, I can always sell it, That's what I thought. And so it was just too good a deal to pass up, And she never wore it. I mean, it was brand new, And she broke her engagement, didn't want anything to do with it. On the second page of Ed's letter, after he said it was coming fellowship week, he said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I've been thinking about marriage. So I have to tell you what else happened when I tried on the dress. Once a week, we had devotions in one room in the dormitory. That evening, when I had the dress on, all these girls come filing in. I'm like, oh no, devotion night, oh no. And so they're like, oh, that dress is so gorgeous on you. And, my hair was starting to grow out, so they're like, when are you getting married? I said, I don't know. And they're like, who are you engaged to? Nobody. Who are you dating? Nobody. And it's like, okay, Yahweh just told me thank you. I said, God just told me to buy the dress. And so I had the money, and I bought the dress. And they're like, okay. And so then the next day, I was able to show that letter because I bought that dress by faith because Yahweh told me to. And I'm telling you girls, Yahweh can do this for you. When you give it all to Him, and you don't go look at it and say, oh, he's cute. And I didn't really notice how much of a hug Eddie was until he was standing outside waiting on me to come out. And one of the girls, this was after we were engaged, and I was going to summer school, and he was standing under the tree, and like the most popular girl said, who is that? I said, he is fine. That's who he is. Hands off. But that's the beautiful thing. And so my husband and I, Ed said that we had seen friends of ours that got in trouble, in Bible college, got pregnant, and all the rest. And he said, God gave me this verse. He said, it is good that a man should not touch a woman. And I said, that sounds good. So we never even held hands. He never touched me. He never touched me. The first time he kissed me was on our wedding day in front of 300 people. That's what happens when you give Yahweh your life and you watch. Kuf, holy. They arise, just like the resurrection, her children, and they call her blessed. The thing about children is, while they're little, and especially when they're teenagers, they don't usually call you blessed. I hate to tell you that, but if you have teenagers that call you blessed, then hey, you're really something. But most kids are going to come back either when they have their own children or after they've gone to the Navy and back, or found out what it's really like out there and how blessed they were to have a godly mother and father. That's when they come back. Kuf. So Kuf, I'm sorry if I went too fast on that. Kuf means holy, holy. So how old was Abraham when he had Isaac? He was 100. So you put the Kuf and the Sadi together with the Yod. You have the head of Yahweh when Abraham was 100, when Sarah was 90. Then they have Het, life. And together it spells Isaac. Those 4 letters. So if you want to know more about that, come to my Hebrew class sometime. Hopefully we'll be doing a Zoom class. Resh, Rabot, many daughters have been valiant, but you surpass them all. And so it takes a lot to be a valiant woman of Yahweh. Being a wife and mother are not for sissies. It's not for wimps, okay? It's tough. It's a tough thing. And hopefully you'll find out how tough it is when you girls get married and find the right man. But the right man is so worth waiting for. So worth it. And I have to tell you, after 47 years, when he touches my hand, I still get that same tinkle that I got on the day I married him. That's what happens when you wait. That's what happens when you wait. Good things happen to those who wait. Shady, shed hair, Deceptive is charm. Shakir means to lie or deceive. And the she looks like teeth. It means to consume. To consume. Deceptive is charm, and fleeting is beauty. Believe me, you're going to be my age before you know it. It's going to be here before you know it. And you're going to look back and say, wow, where did all that time go? But a wife that fears Yahweh, she's the one that shall be praised. Shakir. And I wanted to show you this little thing. You have the Hebrew alphabet at the bottom of this screen here. The very first letter is the Aleph. I put here also the final forms. So when you have the final forms added up to all the other 22 letters, then you have 27 letters. So the very first letter is the Aleph. The very last is the Tav. Remember Yeshua said, I'm the Aleph and the Tav, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. And the one in the very middle is the Mem. So you have Aleph, Tav, and the Mem in the middle of the Messiah. That means truth. So look what happens when you have the word lie. You focus on this one little area. My husband has this habit that just drives me nuts. You know, whatever it is, we all have. Okay. Why does he do that? You know? And so you focus on it, rather than focusing on the first, the middle, and the end. Focusing on the big picture of how blessed we are. We focus on one tiny little thing, Shakir. And so Shakir is all mixed up. It's right at the end. And you notice it doesn't involve the top, which is about the covenant. So Shakir. Don't want to believe the lies of the enemy. Aish. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to teach you this couple little Hebrew words here. The first one is ish. So when you have the little one dot under the Aleph, it says E. So imagine my son Kevin that loved to ski. Okay, and he would sometimes ski on one foot. Okay, so imagine ski, and so what is ski with one foot? Okay, so that's why it says E, like ski. And then you have the yod and the she, so that says ish, and that means man. That isha, woman, is very close. So you have the aleph, again it says E, and then shah, okay, the ah is the ah sound, and the silent hey on the end is feminine, that makes the word feminine, so isha. And together, if you take the yod from the middle of the man, ish, you have a yod. If you take the hey from the end of isha, you have a hey. Together, you have a yod hey, which is the shortened version of Yahweh. Together is Yahweh's plan for a man and a woman to glorify Him on this earth. Why do you think the enemy comes against our marriage? With good people that love Yahweh, but just don't know how to treat each other. And so the enemy just gets him to say the wrong thing, and you to say the wrong thing, and we don't understand that a man has to have respect. Without it, he feels like he's nothing. And men don't always understand a woman has to feel loved. Okay, so we have to, that's why the older women have to teach the younger. the men too. But we are to bring Yahweh glory without the yod and the hay. Then all you have left is ash, fire. Without the yod from the man and the hay from the woman, you have ash. And most marriages, think about the friends that you have. Most marriages are fireworks. I used to just stand at the door as a teenager after I got saved and dread going into that house of chaos because I could hear them shouting at each other from outside. And I had to go in and try to love them both. Thanks. So we don't want our houses to be ash. With God and man and woman, the world will see him. Without him, all they see is fire. And last of all, we have Tom. Give to her from the earning of her hands, and let her works praise her at the gates. To do, give to her, to do not, give to her. Tav means covenant. Covenant. The ancient form of the Tav looked just like a cross, and through the cross is our covenant.